Hey, good afternoon. My name is Deb Coviello, and welcome to Drop In CEO Live Talk Media, where I have an amazing guest, Adrian Brady Chisana. Welcome to the show. Thank you, Brady.
Thanks so much for having me, Ted. Thank you.
I'm excited because for those of you that don't know Adrian, and you should get to know him, we just finished our 99th episode where he was my guest. An amazing conversation. So we'll put something in the comments here so you can check out his work. But he is the founder, the owner of the CXC Pillars, customer experience, and near and dear to my heart. And, that ties in with this week's theme. My theme for my business is celebrating milestones with your customers. So often as a business, we kind of keep those things to ourselves. We don't celebrate enough. But, I would love to have a conversation with you and maybe tell us a little bit more for the viewers and listeners about the CXC pillars for
Sure.
what you're known for, and
Yep.
where does celebrating fit into all of that?
Absolutely. So, Deb, number one, thank you so much for giving me the chance again to chat with all of you and all of your listeners. It's always a pleasure doing this. I think, for folks that haven't spent a lot of time knowing about me or about CX Chronicles, the four pillars derived, Deb, from, I was super lucky to spend almost 10 years working on all these different venture capital backed startups. And I was super long story short, I was the guy that every single time had to think about building our customer facing team. So nowadays we've got customer experience, customer success, customer service, customer support. There's all these different terms that companies love to kind of throw out there. But essentially, I was the individual that had to think about how do we want to build, scale, and manage the team of people that need to take care of our customers, the most important part of any business in the world. And the four CX pillars, Deb, team, tools, process, and feedback, it really derived from, as I spent time at more and more and more of these organizations across different types of industries and different types of business types, those are like the four big buckets that I kind of, after about 10 years of seeing the same types of things happen, I was like, wait a minute, these four things are clearly sticking out like a sore thumb. And they became things that, as I was building my own personal professional playbook and I was getting bigger roles and bigger responsibilities and bigger teams and bigger budgets, those were the four pillars that just helped me have almost a formulaic approach to helping not only the executive teams that I was working for, but the boots on the ground people that were actually taking care of these customers every single day. And then even the customer bases, Deb, even the customer base can resonate and can understand team, tools, process, and feedback. And they wonder why some of the biggest companies in the world don't simplify it when they're thinking about their own CX strategies and roadmaps. So that's the high level for where the pillars came from.
But it's so simple. People, process, tools. Again, that's a standard even for my line of work in continuous improvement and quality. But I love where you went with the feedback. The feedback was like the glue, the missing piece. And you even said on the podcast, the fourth leg. So just tell us a little bit more why that is so critical to the CXC pillars.
Well, I think, there's a couple things. I think it's funny, and now I'll answer this, but what's funny is in a startup world, right? When you're building a business, you're building I love to compare it to like a bonfire being built, right? You start with a small little fire, and then you add more and more and more before you know you got a big bonfire on the beach. Startups were always notorious for being excellent at using daily feedback, weekly feedback, instant feedback, live feedback from their users or from their early customers. Literally jump on the next sales call with a little bit of extra energy and feedback and mojo from what that customer just told them when they go into the next expectation setting conversation with a potentially new customer. Startups are always great with this. I think, Deb, what you and I were talking about the other day with what's gone on in the world over the last year and with this entire global population having to think about the pandemic and thinking about all of these different things that are these new stressors in our lives that we've never even had to think about before, there's going to be a different set of pressure on big companies, on big, huge global corporations that, whether you love them or you hate them, they've been able to get away with a lot. They've been able to get away with take it or leave it type of mentality. They've been able to sort of just literally take over an entire vertical. And that's why we have to buy from them, even if we hate them. We could have a separate podcast just around my hatred for some companies. I won't say any names, but like everyone knows what I'm talking about. Like most people have one or two cable options. That's crazy, right? So anyway, I think it's like one of these things where companies that take that feedback, they build it directly back into tomorrow's optimization or tomorrow's improvements or the evolution of their business. Those are the companies that not only do they typically kick butt and they get ahead on the sales side and on the revenue side and the growth side, but from an employee experience perspective, those are companies that the smartest people in the world want to work at.
And I want to share something, a beautiful point there. So you are an expert in feedback. So just before we jumped on here, Adrian and I are just kind of talking about how our days are going. And we talked about the 99th episode that he was on. He said, Deb, it was a great episode. Really, really appreciate it. So it's like, talk about getting like excited before jumping on and pushing the button here. So we got the energy flowing here.
Yep.
But let's just talk about milestones. And I'm just going to jump in here a little bit and kind of toot my own horn a little bit. You know, I've been doing my business for 2 years. I left corporate 2019,
awesome.
Started a business. So milestone number 1, the 100th episode of my podcast. I knew I wanted to do a podcast. We're celebrating on Friday,
That's
100th
awesome,
episode.
Thank
you. Yep. Appreciate you being part of the journey. And finally, the book. I'm writing a book. It's going to be out this year, The CEO's Compass. Can't wait to share with everybody because I know it's going to help so many people. So I'm sharing that with my listeners. I'm sharing that with my clients, the ones that I've served and the ones I haven't served yet. But to you, when you work with teams or maybe even for your business, why is it so important to maybe celebrate those milestones?
So first of all, awesome question. I think one of the first places I start with that, people forget this, even in this remote world, and it might feel a little bit weird because we're all working in our home offices right now, but most people, especially professionals, they spend more time at work with their coworkers than they do with their family and their friends and the people that they would prefer, maybe prefer to be spending all their time with. And so you just got to start there, right? Because if most of us spend the bulk of our time here, on this planet working, you gotta stop and take a minute to smell the roses, take a look at literally stop and turn around and look behind you and see all the things that you've accomplished, all the things that you've done. The other thing is this: there's too many incredible, awesome examples of. Success does not happen overnight. Yes, every now and then there's an example of some pop or some explosion type of situation where somebody becomes a star overnight or some business all of a sudden figures out some big ripe space overnight. But that is so infrequent. Success is like grinding it out. It's showing up every damn day. It's constantly learning. Right when you think you just figured out everything, you got to go back and learn another 100 things. And that is, and Deb, you and I joke about this as entrepreneurs and as business owners. It's literally every day of the week that you're like, I got to go learn this now. I got to go think about that. I got to
learn Clubhouse now. Oh my God.
Exactly. Like literally every day, every week, there's some new thing. But with milestones, right? There's a couple things. Number one, I think simply put, it's important to stop and celebrate successes, no matter how big or how small they are, right? Because you got to give yourself a pat on the back. You certainly got to give your team a pat on the back when they're kicking butt for you and they're rolling up their sleeves, just taking care of business. But the other thing about milestones, I think, is, what is the point of goal setting, and what's the point of putting all of these targets out there in the world, whether they're sales targets, whether they're retention targets, whether they're product targets, and you want to build X by Y by Z. What's the point of having targets if you don't celebrate and actually share milestones that are happening within a team or within a department or within a certain business? So I think those are two of the starting points that I think about. The last piece is this: I think companies that are really kind of crushing it with not only their customer experience, but their employee experience, I think, I'm not positive, but I think we're leaving the waters of the world where everything is about what the CEO is doing. And we're leaving the world about where all of the wins from a business don't necessarily have to come from how that CEO is running her business. It does not have to be that. I think what we're actually starting to enter the waters of is all of the engineers, the architects, the salespeople, the operations people, the product builders who are literally hobbling these businesses together and making them into incredible successes. I think it's becoming a little bit more up front and center to showcase the incredible people inside of your business, not always the executives, right? And I know, I totally get it. The executives are one of the most important parts of this super, super difficult puzzle. And the other thing too is what most people that have never been fortunate enough to either work in an executive position or work with executives regularly, it's an incredibly demanding job. It is not even remotely as easy as it looks. It certainly takes an incredible toll, not only on an individual, but sometimes on their family, the time commitment, the energy commitment. It's really, really hard position. But with that being said, modern companies that are showing all the incredible things that their teams are doing, that their employees are doing, or that their customers are doing, and then using milestones as almost like an indicator or stepping stones for why that brand or why that business or why that company is doing such an exceptional job, it's just easy. It's an easy way to translate to other humans all the incredible things that you're working on and that you're building every single day.
Really actionable, very helpful. And, the big takeaway from this is we need to celebrate even the small milestones, and regardless of where people are in the organization or even the small things. I mean, first of all, thank you for being part of the Drop-In CEO journey.
It's my pleasure, Deb.
99 and on to 100. But I am also celebrating only a few people, part of a large group of partners as part of my organization, the 100th episode. Peter Gorel, David Hasse, Mario Pareca, all people who have been part of the journey and celebrate with. So I am super excited to celebrate those milestones with a few people, but there are so many more. And again, to your point, we need to just pause and reflect and celebrate the small wins in people and let people know.
Big time.
Just for you, you're a business owner.
Yep.
What's a major milestone that you've recently celebrated or, within the past year?
So, okay, there's a few that come to mind, and I think for the listeners, one of the reasons why Deb and I hit it off so well, we both were in similar positions where we spent much of our professional careers building other companies, building other teams, working within businesses, and giving our blood, sweat, and tears to figure out how the hell to make it happen every single solitary day. And that's awesome, right, Deb? Because we would not be where we are today, and we wouldn't be in the positions where we're able to help many different companies and many different executive teams and many different boots on the ground customer facing teams. But for me, I'd say one of the biggest milestones was finally just making the decision to, similar to you, Deb, just get it started, get CXC started, go start the business, stop talking about it, stop thinking about it, go act on it, go do it, like literally go do it. That would be one huge one, was just getting CX Chronicles up and running, making it a real business. The second big one was, and I told you this on the podcast, Deb, and in some of our chats, I didn't know what was going to happen with the CX Chronicles podcast. When I started it, part of me knew that selfishly I'd meet some awesome people, I'd learn some things, I'd practice more of my speaking skills, right? And I'd get better at trying to figure out how to tell a story and how to get a group of people to want to learn and want to listen to something. But now at this point, Deb, similar to you, we crossed our 100th episode a few months back. We're on our way towards 125 episodes. I mean, we've been able to have hundreds of interviews with customer-focused business leaders from across the world, which I'm so privileged and blessed to say. And I think the other big thing is, as we were doing episode by episode by episode by episode, the following, the CX Nation, as we call it in our podcast, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then every single day now, I'm blown away. Every morning when I'm doing my coffee and I'm reading my morning emails, some of the people that want to come onto the show and talk about their teams and talk about their tools, I'm blown away. I'm like, wait a minute, such and such wants to come on the show and talk about their business? Okay, done. Let's sign me up. So I'd say the second big one is just like continuing to build not only the content pool, but the audience that comes with the content pool. And then the third, and probably, and you mentioned this on our episode together, you don't have anything as a business owner without customers. You don't have anything, right? You do not have a business without customers. Customers make every business. They're the most important part of any business, because you can't even have employees without customers, right? So I'd say that over the last year, the customer base that we've been able to build, filled with a number of incredible startup companies, scale-up companies, and small businesses that are about to burst, are about to come on and be big, huge companies that we're all gonna know about. That's probably one of the absolute biggest milestones that I could share. Last one, sorry, I know I said 3, but I'm gonna have to add one more. By way of getting more and more and more of these incredible businesses that we're working with at CXC, finally started to be able to build the CXC team. And that's probably like the coolest part of everything to this point. And then that's definitely what gets me the most excited every morning when I get up to work with these incredibly smart people to help me serve our customers.
I am so excited that we got to know each other, and we kind of stumbled onto each other through a podcast mastermind. But that, you know what? That's how relationships are built.
How it happens.
We do business and we support each other. Congratulations on those milestones. Sincerely appreciate that and wish you continued success. If people wanted to connect with you, because after this, I'm sure they will, how best can they do that?
So awesome. So easiest place is cxchronicles.com. Start there. You'll learn a little bit more about me, a little bit more about the podcast, a little bit more about the CX managed services and optimization services that we work with our clients on. And easiest place to drop a note, and we will get back to you right away.
So thank you so much. And for my listeners and viewers out there, certainly thank you for joining us on another episode of the Drop-In CEO Live Talk Media. And if you want to be a guest on this show and just have some very casual conversation, let people get to know you as well as providing some value, just message me and I'd be happy to talk to you. So Adrian, wishing you continued success and on those milestones. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Deb. My pleasure. Thank you.